communication is the key to success. Sometimes, however, when I do try to express myself, it goes the wrong way to the point where I have my meltdowns and shutdown periods, and I will not talk at all or just withdraw myself out from the group. I am the kind of woman that sometimes likes to keep to myself someday, when I can regather my bearings and go on again. I have noticed that some are quick to judge others on the spot, as I know that sometimes they say it only takes a split second to know the person. Yet, in reality we know that it takes longer to know the actual person as it takes years to build up a relationship with them, as a friend or a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. I have noticed that many people do tend to think that they know everything about everyone, yet that is not the case, as we know that everyone around us does change. For some of us Aspie females, we do tend to find it hard to express our feelings naturally, depending on the situations that we are in at that given moment of time. Sometimes, at the end of it all, what we want to show to others based on our feelings and emotions has to be taught, reprogrammed in our brains, or even sometimes, as said before, and scripted. Most of us Aspies then, however, may watch television, a movie, or a drama, and we will take this in and on board when it comes to the exact moment that will match the situation that we are facing, to express these feelings of ours that are genuine. As I said before, the importance of it all when we get misunderstood, is that we need to be accepted, loved, being able to be patient and empathetic and more. We just need to get along with one another and being able to also connect with one another at a different level. I have seen that there are many arrogant, selfish, self-centered people out there, yet as I mentioned before, this is a lack of understanding and awareness based on this condition. As for some people that had come into my circle or path in my life, many may assume the worst out of me and will assume instantly that there is something wrong with me. But do they bother to have the courage to talk to me? Yet, I am real and all my emotions are from my heart. Yet, imagine the feelings that I need to show out to you like a film strip that needs to be gathered and processed, all filled with different everyday emotions, and that most of us are just picking what emotion is sorted to show and express with others around us. Yes, it may look like I will express to you, this played out or scripted. Yet, this will again lead to misreading, misunderstandings and misjudgment from others that are not autistic. That will lead to difficulties in conveying an emotion or what I saw previously or remember, as this is important to most of us Aspies. This is because, the younger female with autism or AS, it is more pronounced to a point where some of us need to externalize the emotions in some ways in taking what was learned and experienced to do so. However, this is not calculated or a cold plan to get or seek attention, and this is not an act. This is not a mirage, as this is real. This is our emotions, and we just need to find the right people around us that will be able to let us be ourselves and express our feelings and emotions the right way, and to be able to encourage and support us along the way. As and meltdowns. There are many different type of meltdowns that we Aspies tend to get, depending on the given time or moment of a situation that we are facing. Meltdowns have stages that fall into place when it does happen. However, some will come real quickly for some of us and some slower again, depending on the situation we are facing at that moment of time. I am going to briefly share my definition of the meltdown and also the types and stages that occurs in different stages for us Aspies. A meltdown is associated with people who suffer from AS like me. A meltdown may occur when someone gets overloaded with too much information that is given to him/her at one time. This can also happen more when I am in a situation, like being in a large crowd of people. This will then lead me to have hot or cold sweats, heart racing, panics and fidgets, lightheadedness and being nauseous. The type of overload that I am talking about is the sensory and emotional overload. Imagine yourself playing your video or a media player of a type of music or video that is beginning to buffer. This is one of the chances in how someone with AS may feel at that moment of time. Most of us Aspies, as well as the normal NTS, need some time out stage to withdraw ourselves from any situation as listed above to take our time to process the information that may have been given to us before the meltdown stage occurred. One thing to remember, is not to rush Aspies to get over the situation that they are in or even facing at that moment of time. Most people need to be patient as well as understanding, to help us to get through whatever we are facing at that moment of time. If you can do this for us, then we can do the same for you. It is like a give and take plus a respect factor for both of us. When there is too much information and not enough time, as well as space for us Aspies to process, a meltdown will likely happen. Sometimes, meltdowns will happen and I may have the above symptoms, which I may also lead to outbursts of anger and aggression. Yet, not all of these signs are the same for all of us Aspies, which you can call an insolent. Most of the situations I face every now and then may lead me to a next stage of the process, which is called a shutdown, isolation, or a withdrawal stage. Many of you, while reading this chapter of my book, will be asking yourself a question that I get asked all the time, and that is, how do I cope when this stage happens to me? One of the answers to that is, I imagine myself somewhere that is calm, peaceful, whether I am at a beach or I am in the forest connecting with nature. Another answer is that I have learned to practice some breathing techniques that will work for me. For example, I inhale and count to 4 and then exhale and count to 8. While exhaling, I will then hum and break out into a song. I also focus on the positives and making sure that I have people who are going to be there for me. To me, this is really important. Without the right support, the world will be a lonely place. There are many different types and stages of meltdowns that occur in an Aspie and people with autism spectrum disorder, ASD. The ones that I am hoping to talk about are sensory overload, AS and depression, AS and isolation, AS and shutdown, and temper meltdowns. AS and isolation. Most of us Aspies tend to close ourselves off, from the outside world as well as from people around us, as this is not a threat, but one of our coping mechanisms. I believe that everyone has something like this, as well as how they deal with situations which could be similar or similar to how I deal with different situations, when they arises. I believe that, if we were to be honest and work together no matter what, the world will be a better and easier place for each and every one of us. As I mentioned in one of my chapters, there will be times that certain situations will come to test us in everything we do. But, I believe that we can fight and win whatever it is, by having the right and positive attitude towards that situation. As I said before in my chapter of AS and meltdowns, that there will come a time period where we'll need time out for ourselves, so that we can recharge and regenerate our batteries till our social tank is full again. Sometimes, many of us do tend to break away from the world and people around us, to give us that time to do the activities that we love to do, to keep us entertained, busy and active. We are not doing any of this on purpose, as some of you may think that we are. No, it is quite the opposite, as when we need our time to isolate ourselves, this will give many of us, Aspies, time to distress and release any negative energy that was around us at the time. I believe, as mentioned before, that we need to be with the right people who will support us in our dreams and visions, no matter what it could be. I believe that there will be plenty of people that are negative and just really want to put us down to the point to get to their level. Some of these people can be so unhappy, insecure, and jealous of what we may have got and more. I have, however, conducted a list of the pros and cons of being isolated, which will hopefully give you all a better understanding on how I as an Aspie behave, or some other person. It may not be the same as others around me about how they behave, but it may be beneficial to just accept that this may work for me, and also having to accept whatever works for you. I always want to solve problems before it happens. Pros: decrease sense of discomfort when around with people for too long, as well as getting to the stage where I may be overstimulated. Meaning that, I can't stay around with a lot of people and loud noises for a long period of time. Can control the environment that I am in and making myself comfortable with the environment I am in, as well as not feeling helpless as am at peace with myself. Lack of social pressure when socializing with others, that I may need to act a certain way towards them. I need to be reprogrammed to a point where I have relearned some things I have forgotten. When being alone, however, I like to be on the phone or even on a computer, talking to someone. This will give me the time I need to process my thoughts into what I want to say. I can have more time for myself, for what I love to do and enjoy. Cons: sometimes, there will not be a chance for improving social skills for interacting with people around you. Lack of communication and/or physical contact. Seeing something new and different that may become a chore or even routine, empty space. Nothing to challenge you or to even excite you. As with anger, temper and meltdowns. We all have been through so many struggles, whatever it may be. I do go through some anger problems, yet I am not the only one that has an anger issue. It is how we deal with it that matters. As there are many different types of meltdown phases, which will depend on some factors. The important thing to remember is how we're treated and at the same time cared for. However, some people will struggle so much in handling this situation. Yet, when we go through these stages and phases of the meltdowns, it is up to us to find a way to overcome most of the situations we face. Everyday people, not just us Aspies, will go through similar patterns of behavior through these meltdowns. Meltdown, as I said before, happens when a sensory overload occurs of some kind that gets too much for us to handle or cope with at any given moment of time. Most of the meltdowns that occur are so quick and sudden that sometimes we need to at least try and be prepared as much as we can be. Majority of the time, most autistic children will resort to having a tantrum when this form of meltdown occurs. When they have a tantrum, this is gain attention from whoever is there at the time, as well as what environment that they are in. When a child has a tantrum majority of the time, he will manipulate the situation and the parents, as well as lose control and flare up. You will notice that the child's behavior will definitely change like the wind, when it happens. We need to remember who is in control while the child is having a tantrum. I remember when I was a child, I only had a few temper tantrums with my parents, but I knew what was coming was some form of punishment. You are in charge and have the authority to change their behavior by ignoring them. Some parents, however, will play along with them to see if they can tire out the child, yet some children can be so demanding. The qualities of the tantrum, however, will vary from child to child. When a sensory overload occurs with the meltdown, it could mean that they are having a migraine or it is getting way too much for them of the environment that they are. Sometimes, many people will feel helpless. As mentioned, there is need for awareness and knowledge when this happens. Empathy, understanding, and love for a child is important, as well as being in a safe environment when it happens are crucial too. Support is really important today than ever before. When interacting with the child, do not yell at him/her, speak to the child in a calm and quiet manner, assuring him/her that everything will be okay. Be sure not to smother the child. Having this form of meltdown can cause disruption in our everyday lives. Sometimes, it can result when we get so self-absorbed with some of activity and suddenly get interrupted by someone or something. Sometimes, anger meltdowns can also lead to depression, yet again the diagnoses and symptoms will vary from child to child. When I have my temper meltdowns, I tend to get so angry and frustrated. Sometimes, I will be talking to myself or even under my breath may sometimes swear a little bit. I am not usually an angry person, as I know how to control my anger and know when to stop myself from harming myself or others around me. I believe that despite if and when I feel angry, that there are some people that will test us in every level to breaking point. I believe that we should be able to always let go of our anger in a positive way and also the right way. I have learned that some things can never be fixed, but you can at least try to before it is too late. I feel never too late to do this, as well as never holding a grudge on the people involved for too long. Coping strategies I use. There are a few coping strategies I use that tend to work for me when this form of meltdown occurs. I sometimes go to a cool or quiet room with some sensory items in it. A quiet room is where I can have as a safe haven for me to meditate and unwind and relax in. I usually have my dock station on, with different sounds of nature playing in the background while I am on my bed, lying down. I love going outdoors and connect with nature of the birds and be counting my blessings that I am alive, and just be grateful with the small things that we all take for granted. I use a breathing technique of breathing in and out 10 times, and then on the 8th count, I usually will start to hum and sing. When it results to this stage for me, I remove myself from the situation as well as the environment I am in. I then will ask myself why it happened,